Hey guys, welcome to Acre Homestead. I am going to take you on a full garden tour. First garden tour I've ever done. This is my first gardening season, so this is going to be the June 2020 garden tour. I'm just going to take you around and you're welcome to join me as I show you around. So on the very back of the property is where we put our raised beds in. Josh built me 16 raised beds. They are 16 by 4 feet. And I have 16 of those, so I'll walk you through what I have planted in them. So these first two raised beds closest to me have onions, parsley, kale, and then just tons of pepper plants. I started the majority of these pepper plants indoors back on February 2nd, inside, and you know, they don't look super great, and I think it's because I don't have grow lights. So for my birthday, I'm asking for grow lights so I can do that again. This is a tomato plant that I had purchased, and a deer had just lopped the top of it off, and I wasn't sure if the tomato plant would continue to grow or die, so I just stuck it in the ground and it seems to be doing pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. Over here is another pepper bed. I've got just all different types of peppers. These peppers here I purchased, so those are quite a bit bigger and look really nice and healthy. That middle pepper there, that's a Tabasco pepper that I started from seed, and I'm crossing my fingers that it grows so I can try to make Tabasco sauce. Got some parsley, kale, onions. You guys have seen those onions. I have my celery along the side there, and then just some more kale and onions. And then these 3 beds are dedicated to my tomato plants. I have all different types of tomatoes in here. I have tomatoes I started from seed. I have tomatoes I purchased from Lowe's, from nurseries. I have scattered in there some pepper plants as well, some onions, chard. That chard plant has been eaten by deer to the ground twice, and it keeps coming back, so that's pretty awesome. I'm doing a couple experiments that I watched someone on Instagram do, and they planted direct seeded tomato plants in the ground. These are the ones I'm pointing to, are the ones I direct seeded in the ground after our last frost date. And our last frost date here is, oh gosh, now I can't remember, but I'll look that up. They seem to be doing pretty well. Then I went ahead and I planted some pepper plants in here as well. I have all different types of peppers. These peppers are ones I bought from Wilco, which is a feed store, like a farm store around our house, and they are the healthiest pepper plants I have purchased. These 6 tomato plants here are Roma tomatoes that I actually started from seed. I think I said earlier I purchased these ones, but these plants I actually started from seed, and they look so sad when I put them out here because like I said earlier, I do not have grow lights. But when I planted them, I fertilized them really well, and I'm kind of shocked how well they're doing. And then I have another bed. This bed is all tomatoes that I purchased. I have a bunch of different varieties in here. Along here, I planted basil. I've had a really hard time with slugs this year. I have planted basil. This is my second time planting it from seed out here. The first time the slugs ate every single one, but these ones seem to be doing pretty well. Every single one except for that one. That is a basil plant I started, and the slugs didn't get that one, so that is why that one is a lot bigger than the rest. And here I have calendula flowers. I have eczema really, really bad on my hands, and so calendula is supposed to be really good for that, so I am going to try to make some calendula salve. So we'll see how that goes. This bed here is my pea and summer squash bed. So in here I have some varieties that I'm not actually sure what they are because I mixed up the ones I started from seed, and then I bought a couple and I didn't label them very well, so we'll see when they start fruiting. These ones down here are zucchinis, because if you look back there, there is a zucchini. And then here is a yellow squash, and you can see some. I'm going to harvest those pretty soon. This is a patty pan squash, I believe. That one down there looks almost ready to harvest, so this would be my first one to harvest. And then there's a couple of these volunteered, which I have no idea how they volunteered, because this is the first time the soil has ever been used. I did throw I top dressed it with some manure, and I don't know if the manure had seeds in it, but it was really odd. These two plants here and that little plant there, that was all volunteers, so really, really odd. I'm not sure how that happened. Not complaining, just not sure. And then this, I believe, is another, I think this is a crookneck. I think this one actually has a label. No, it doesn't. Crookneck squash. This is my only sunflower that survived. The slugs again ate there. And then here I have peas, and I've harvested a few. You can see if you look close, there's some in there. None of them have made it into the house. All the ones I have taken off those plants I've eaten. And then I did a second succession of peas along here. These are more of a bushing variety, so we'll see how those go. All right, so after the pepper bed, I have carrots here, and this section, about 1 foot by 4 feet, was carrots that I planted back in February, and I harvested those last week. So this set of carrots, I'll probably harvest in a few weeks. And then I have beets here, and some of them have already gone to seed. I'm not sure. The deer came and completely ate the tops of all these off before. I mean, the beets were only like this big, so I let them keep growing, and then as soon as the leaves started growing, they started going to seed. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. If you have any ideas, let me know. I don't know if you can eat beets after they go to seed. I don't know if they get bitter. And then this section here was radishes. I thought I was planting a huge section from here to here with lettuce, but when they sprouted, I realized I had planted an entire package of radishes. So I harvested those, and I pickled and fermented most of them. I actually don't really love radishes, but pickled is pretty good. So I put those on tacos and things. But when I pulled all those plants out, I then put in some dragon tongue bush beans here, and then I planted some pickling cucumbers. Those are Boston pickling cucumbers, and then I have some dill back there. And then this spot doesn't have anything in it, so I don't know if I'm going to put something there. I need to figure that out. And then coming around here, this tomato plant was a sucker from one of my other tomato plants, and last week when I cut the sucker off, I just stuck it in the ground, put this cage around it, and I honestly thought it was going to die. It looked horrible. But then it's rained, and it looks like it's coming to life. So this is just an experiment. We'll see what happens with that too. And then over here, this is my pea bed. I had radishes that I was growing all along here, and those were the radishes I knew that I was planting, and that's the amount I wanted. And then I planted this whole section too. But when I took those out, I planted some basil plants that I actually purchased when my original basil plants got eaten by slugs. And then I planted onions, and these are calendula again. I'm going to harvest those flowers and make a salve out of it. And after I planted this bed with onions, and these are black turtle beans here, this half, and then those are Contender heirloom green beans. After I planted it, I did reading, and you are not supposed to plant onions next to peas, but I already planted them, and so we'll just see what happens. I'm not the best researcher. I just am better at getting things done, and then sometimes I figure out the hard way that it would have been better to read about it first, but that's okay. We'll just see how it turns out. I have tons of flowers on my green beans. These are really pretty purple flowers. I have yet to find one actual green bean yet, but hopefully soon I will be inundated with green beans. Behind the green beans is my potatoes, and they are going bananas. These, I have no idea why they fell over. There was a big rain, and I don't know if the rain made them fall over or if they're dying back. I know when the potatoes plants die back is when you harvest them. But this section of potatoes hasn't flowered yet. You can see there's flowers on these potatoes here, And from what I understand, you harvest potatoes after they flower and die back. But this section hasn't flowered, but they seem to not be doing super well. Something's eating them too. So we'll see what happens with those. So these are more potatoes. You can just see how big these potatoes are. So I am 5'4", and these potato plants, they are in a raised bed, but these potato plants are huge. They're absolutely massive. So I'm excited about these. I have 4 different varieties of potatoes in here. I have some that I bought at Home Depot, and then this section of potatoes and this section of potatoes were seed potatoes I purchased from a greenhouse, and I have them labeled, but the labels are buried underneath these huge potato plants. So when I harvest them, I'll let you know what type of potatoes they are. Moving to the right of the potatoes, I have cauliflower, which are just absolutely massive. I am so excited about this. I only found 1 caterpillar on all of these. I've been checking them regularly. I am going to harvest them this weekend, I think. They're getting pretty big and ready to harvest. And then I need to plant something in this space after I pull these plants up. So if you have any ideas, let me know, because I'm not sure what I am going to plant. And then here I have some white onions. Here I have some more pepper plants. And then here I have, these are dragon tongue green beans, bush beans, that I planted about a month after I planted that green bean bed. So hopefully I'll extend my harvest of green beans. And then in here I have Boston pickling cucumbers, and that is a cucumber plant I bought at the farmer's market. I just bought it and the seed didn't pop up right there, so I planted it there. And then here I have parsley. And then this is a zucchini plant that I got at Home Depot, and that is a Black Beauty zucchini plant. And then coming back here, I have cabbage and onions intermixed. These cabbages I started from seed indoors, and like the tomatoes, they looked really, really sad and pathetic when I brought them out here. I have 2 different varieties. I have early Jersey and a cone shaped, or maybe that's the cone shaped. I don't remember. I'm not very good at labeling. And oh, let's see. Here's a label. So I have golden acre cabbage, which I guess are the round ones. And I started these indoors on February 9th. And then the cone ones must be the early Jersey. Those are both an heirloom variety. And then over here, these were, I didn't think those were going to actually survive. So I purchased some starts from Home Depot, and these are just some round cabbages. The label or the marker's in there somewhere. But they're actually a little bit more behind the ones that I started, which looked really sad in the beginning, so we'll see. Over here is where I started some more beets. I started this whole section, I started on April 5th. So these are beets, just some different lettuce varieties. These are kohlrabi. I bought these at the grocery store. They were marked down to $1 and they looked really, really sad. But I popped them in the ground. They seem to be doing pretty well. My chickens are currently right here. They are eating the grass here because I'm going to extend all this mulch over here. So that's the chickens. And then over here, I planted another pretty good sized section of carrots, but the germination rate on those is pretty poor. So I'm going to have to come back and plant something there. And then these onions are just getting eaten up by slugs. I'm not sure why. These are collard greens, and they're going to seed, but my chickens absolutely love these. So I actually almost every morning come out and harvest a few leaves and throw them to the chickens. These beds back here don't get very much sun. So this section here is carrots that I planted. This right here is cilantro. This right here is dill, and then I have spinach there, and then I have more peas. These are supposed to be a bushing variety. So this bed and this bed don't get very much sun because I have these massive trees here. So eventually I am going to take this tree out and that tree. I will probably leave this tree. So I have tried to just throw a couple things in the ground and see what grows. I have another section of carrots here, and then there's nothing in this part yet, just some weeds. So I have to come and thin these pretty soon. And then here I have a few more peas, and then I'm doing baby kale here. So I need to come out probably tomorrow and harvest this as baby kale. This will be cut and come again kale. And then I have a big patch of spinach over there. Seems to be pretty happy. So I have to figure something out for that back half that does well in shade. So this is my asparagus and strawberry bed. There are strawberries all over this property, and I wanted a dedicated bed for strawberries just so that I don't have to go around the whole property to find strawberries. So I transplanted these about a month and a half ago. I picked off most of the flowers so they would use their energy to establish really good roots. So you can probably see these tall tree-like things. Those are asparagus plants. I planted 50 bare root, 2-year-old bare root asparagus plants this year. And so hopefully this will be a perennial bed, strawberries and asparagus. And I'm excited to see how that turns out in the future. So on this other half of this potato bed, I didn't mention that down here I planted some onions from seed. I planted these outside. Oh, I don't think I labeled it. I didn't label it. I don't think these are gonna do super well, and I'm considering just pulling them up and planting something more productive there, but I kind of don't want to give up on it now, so we'll see how that turns out. So I just want to give kind of a quick overview of the back raised bed garden area. Eventually I want to turn the back garden area. Eventually I want to extend the garden out to about here, and I want to put 3 raised beds going this way, and then take care of the grass and stuff like that, but that's for future plans. So over here I have a couple pumpkins. This is the last bit of the soil that I had delivered that I filled in my raised bed. So I planted 2 pumpkins there and an acorn squash, and those are sugar pie pumpkins, by the way. These over here, I am not sure what they are. They were pumpkins that I had started indoors, and I didn't label them, and so I just plopped them in here, so we'll see how they do. That one I know is a sugar pie pumpkin because it has a teeny tiny one on it. I can show you from this side. The smallest little pumpkin. So we'll see how they do. Eventually I am going to probably extend the garden into here, but we'll see. Oh, I didn't show you this earlier. This is a salad spring mix. It's called Rocky Mountain Spring Mix from Baker Creek. All the seeds that I purchased for my garden were from Baker Creek. So on the back half of this tomato bed, which I didn't show you earlier, I have a couple pepper plants, and then these are Thai basil plants in here. And then I do have a couple marigolds that I started. So this is my in-ground garden. It is a back to Eden style garden. These are my corn that I planted. I can't remember the variety of corn. It's a sweet corn that is from Baker Creek as well, and so we'll see how those do. This whole area, eventually I'm going to take down. This used to be the old owner's chicken coop. I am going to eventually take that down, and the old coop is just going to become a tool shed for things like fertilizer and shovels and stuff like that. So eventually I'm going to extend the garden back that way. This is another pumpkin patch. I've got acorn squash, spaghetti squash, pumpkins, delicata squash, and I think a blue Hubbard squash in there. But again, I didn't label anything, so we'll find out. I am going to plant in here probably today or tomorrow. I figured I've got the extra soil there and the ground likes to be covered, so I might as well plop some seeds in there and we'll see what happens. Now over here, to the side of the orchard is where I have a raspberry patch. This is let me give you an overview. This is the berry patch. I'm not sure, I didn't plant this. This is, I inherited this from the previous owners. I know these are raspberries. These are raspberries, and I found a tag for loganberries in here, but these other 3 beds, or 4 beds, I'm not sure what type of berries those are. So that's going to be a fun surprise when those bloom. I'm worried that these actually might be a blackberry. I don't know if it's a wild blackberry or not, but it is growing in the bed. So I'm going to let it go and we'll see. If you know if that's a wild blackberry, let me know and I will take that out because that is an invasive species. So we'll see. So a big project I've been doing is mulching this area. I want this whole entire area eventually to be mulched. I put cardboard down. There is layers of cardboard underneath all of this. I put cardboard down free that I've been collecting from family, friends, work, and then I pile wood chips on it. So I have 3 apple trees, a pear tree, an Asian pear tree, and a plum tree. And in the winter, I learned to prune these. They hadn't been pruned in a couple years, I don't think. And I'm worried that maybe when I prune that apple tree back there, I prune too much or something because there's no fruit on it. But these other trees are loaded. So this is an apple tree, Asian pear tree, Bartlett pear tree, I believe that's the type of pear, but I'm not 100% sure, and then a plum tree. So with the apples, I am going to make some hard cider, some regular cider, applesauce, and other things. So if you're interested in that, follow me, and I will show you how I do that. This is an original raised bed garden from the previous owner. There's 6 beds. This is a very mature rhubarb bed. I've already harvested it completely once, and it's already growing back. I made rhubarb barbecue sauce and rhubarb jam and 2 rhubarb pies. I love rhubarb. So it's about ready to harvest again, so I can show those recipes again. If you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. This is a raspberry patch. This is the only bed from the original raised beds that I planted in. I planted leeks, and then over here I did some dragon tongue green beans because I had a little extra space. This bed is volunteer potatoes from the previous owner. She had planted potatoes here last year, and these were just volunteers, so I let them come up. I had planted a couple things in here early in the spring, but slugs have been a huge issue back here, so I kind of haven't been paying that much attention to this area. I did throw in 4 or 5 sweet potatoes, organic sweet potatoes. That's one of them right there. I have no idea if they're going to grow, but I figured I had a little space with a couple sweet potatoes, so I threw them in there. We'll see. This bed is kind of a hodgepodge. That is an asparagus plant. So I didn't harvest any asparagus. They probably were mature enough to harvest, but I did not harvest any of them because there were only like 6 plants in here. The only thing I planted in here are these little itty bitty guys. These are echinacea plants. I want to make echinacea tincture. So if you're interested in that, let me know and I will show it. And then there's just kind of a hodgepodge. There's leeks, sage, some flowers. So I haven't really just invested a lot of time back here because if you look, there's some massive trees and I think that it just does not get very much sun back here. This bed here had 3 artichokes in it, and you can see that one looks terrible. And then it has a ton of dahlia bulbs apparently, but I don't think it gets enough sun back here, so I doubt those dahlia bulbs will come up, so we will see. Behind me, this plant here is a kiwi plant. This kiwi plant was planted, I believe, 4 years ago, and according to the previous owner, has not fruited yet. In order for kiwis to fruit, they need a male and female plant. The previous owner had thought that she had purchased 2 females and a male plant, but she said they haven't fruited yet, and it usually takes only 3 seasons for them to actually produce fruit. And so I did some research. This is the asparagus behind me. You can see how tall it is. I did some research, and sometimes when you're dealing with kiwis, they don't always, the male and females don't always pollinate at the same time. So when you buy kiwis, you have to make sure you get male and female and that they pollinate at the same time. So either that happened where they don't pollinate at the same time, or they are 3 female plants or 3 male plants. So if they don't fruit this year, I probably won't tear them out. They'll just be pretty to look at. So one thing I'm super excited about is this area back here. I have about 25 blueberry plants, and they are just absolutely loaded with blueberries. And Josh and I actually were out here picking a couple of the slightly ripe ones, and we just cannot wait for these blueberries. So across the yard from the blueberries, there is a little herb patch over here, which I've already been harvesting from quite a bit. Let me turn the camera around and I'll show you. I don't mind the peonies that I need to clean up, but I have pineapple sage, regular sage, a purple sage. I have lemongrass. This is thyme that's flowering. I have tons of oregano in here. Apparently oregano goes crazy bananas, so I'm going to have to take care of this before it starts growing in the lawn. You can see it's getting pretty close. And then I have mint. So I've already been harvesting and dehydrating a ton of oregano and mint. I just want to say thank you so much for watching my very first garden tour. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come along this journey with me on my very first garden. I'm super excited to see what comes out of it, and my failures and my successes. So if you're interested in following along, I would love to have you. I also want to let you know that I am going to be doing a lot of canning, preserving of this food, hopefully, as long as it grows. And I'm going to be cooking a lot, and so I'm going to make videos on all sorts of different things like fermenting, cooking, garden tours, chickens, and things like that. So if you're interested, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all the things. So I would love to have you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to watch.